Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good morning again. Now we are on chapter 2, that is on the scientific evidence. All right, chapter 2, scientific evidence. We have discussed in chapter 1 that scientific research focuses on solving problems and pursues a step-by-step, logical, organized, and rigorous methods to identify the problems. Please refer to the definition of research that we have discussed in chapter 1. Other than identifying the problems, to solve the problems, we need to gather data, analyze the data, and from the data or the analysis, we can draw conclusion from them. This conclusion will be helpful in solving the problems that we have list or we have identified earlier. Thus, scientific research is, by the way, scientific research, it is not based on experience or intuitions, but it is more into, it is a rigorous and purposive study. Okay, remember these two terms, rigorous and purposive. I will share with you what is rigorous and what is purposive in the next slides. And besides that, scientific research also, they help researchers to state the finding with accuracy and confidence. Accuracy and confidence. Please remember these two also, these two terms, accuracy and confidence. I will also share with you what is meant by accuracy, what is meant by confidence. And what you need to know is also scientific investigation needs to be objective. We wish that you need to know what are the problems that you want to solve. And you need to make sure that the data collected from the respondents is more objective than subjective. Okay? And because why we need objective questions asked to the respondents? Because objective questions can help us in decision making, and maybe it also can help us solve the problem dengan lebih bagus lah, lebih bagus. Alright, so that is a little bit about research, scientific research. And in this chapter, what you are going to learn is on the first one is obstacles of conducting research. Second one is highlight and understand the characteristic of a scientific investigation. That is beautifully designed. Third one is understand the research process in general. And the last one is types of research, case studies and action research. These are the 4 objectives of this chapter. Okay, let's move to the characteristics of the research. Characteristics of the research. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 characteristics of the research that you need to know. Now, let's move to the first one, the purposiveness. Purposiveness of the research. Okay, what is purpose of the research? Okay, contohnya, and how can you increase the commitment of employees? The question how there is the purpose. How? The purpose of the research. How can you increase the commitment of the employees at the organization? Because by increasing the commitment of the employees at the organization, it will be beneficial to the organization in many ways. And for example, an increase in employee commitment will translate into lower turnover, less absenteeism, and probably increase the performance level of the employee. Now, let's move to the next one, rigor. A rigor research is a good theoretical base and a sound methodological design of a study. Okay, rigor connotes carefulness, and the degree of exactitude in research investigation. You carefully design the research in all aspects. For example, let us say that a manager of an organization asks 10 to 12 of its employees to indicate what would increase their level of commitment. So to solve the problem, the manager asks 10 to 12, 10 lah, let's say 10 employees to indicate what would increase their level of commitment. Do you think it is a rigorous study? Do you think it is sufficient? It is sufficient to ask 10 employees to indicate what would increase their level of commitment. Class, do you think it is sufficient?
No, sir.
Why?
Too small sample.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, that is one of the reasons why it is not a rigorous study, because the sample size is small. And as I mentioned in the previous chapter, a research must be a scientific research. Scientific research. By just asking or asking 10 employees to indicate what would increase their level of commitment is not that scientific. The third one is the testability. Testability. A scientific research need to have a scientific hypothesis. Give me example of two independent sample t-tests. Hypothesis for two independent sample t-tests. There is a mean difference between the male and female students' performance in STA650, for example. Okay, itu ialah hypothesis. And I can say that it is a scientific hypothesis. Why? Because it is testable. You can test the hypothesis by using two independent sample t-tests, right? Okay, but this is the problem that almost every semester ada. Okay, not all hypotheses can be tested. Not all hypotheses can be tested, and it is very common for the students to write down non-testable hypotheses in their FYP proposal. Selalu ada, every semester ada. So make sure that what you put in your proposal is testable. Because why? Because non-testable hypotheses are often vague statement, or they put forward something that cannot be tested experimentally. So if you can apply statistical technique, then so if you can apply statistical technique to answer or to solve the hypothesis, then we can say that the hypothesis is testable. If you cannot find any statistical technique that can be applied to answer the hypothesis, then it is not a testable hypothesis. Any question on this?
So I have a question.
Yes.
So what does it mean by non-testable? Meaning, if we do a statistical analysis, what will happen?
Okay. Testable and non-testable. Non-testable is a hypothesis that cannot be tested by any statistical analysis. You get it or not?
Get it, sir.
Does it answer your question?
Yes, sir. Meaning, the criteria of the hypothesis doesn't match with any statistical techniques.
Yes, correct. That is correct. Okay, I give you one example. Now, replicability. Okay, replicability means that result of the study is similar to other previous studies which have employed the same methodology and similar environment. For example, if there are two researchers two researchers conduct the same study using the same methodology and they come out with the same result. It means that the research is replicable. For example, if you conduct a study and your friend conduct the same study using same methodology and and you guys get the same answer, then you can have faith that the finding of your study are replicated, can be replicated in other study because of the same output you got. Okay, replication here demonstrates that our hypotheses have not been supported merely by chance, but are reflective of the true state of affairs in the population. It means that by using statistical technique, it is tested or it is proven that female students perform better than the male students, for example. Female students perform better than the male students. And the other researcher also get the same output, same conclusion. And if the research, the same type of research applying the same methodology are repeated over time, repeated in similar circumstances, kan? And yet you will get this, you get the same answer. It means that your research is replicable. Confidence. All right. Okay, what is confidence? Anyone? Ahmad Arifuddin.
Yes, sir.
Yes, what is confidence?
We are sure of the result, that we are confident,
Sorry?
that we are sure of the result that is correct. Our confidence.
All right. What is meant? What do you think is meant by 90% confident, 95% confidence?
The percentage of how much we want the result to be correct.
Thank you, Arifuddin. I will help you on this. All right. So confidence here is actually the probability that our estimations are correct. If you conduct the same study 100 times, okay, if let's say for 95% confident level, if you conduct a study 100 times, you can be confident that 95 times of the 100 times the study conducted, 95 times you will get the same answer. And the 95 times is the chance that your answer or the result will be true. And only 5% chance of the answer can be wrong. Right. How about precision? Right. Precision. We have 3 more slides to go. Please bear with me. Okay, precision refers to the closeness of the findings to the reality based on a sample. Based on the sample. Okay, macam tadi we have population of 1,000 statistics students, and the precision means that if we have data of all population and data of the sample, precision means that the closeness to the reality, closeness to the population parameter. Kan, kalau kita ada dua-dua data, kita boleh compare. It means that kalau in order to get a higher precision, usually you need to have a larger sample size lah, because larger sample size will better represent the population. But sometimes it is not really practical for you to have a, katalah you nak ambil 700 sample out of 1,000 population. It is not worth it because sometimes your precision only increase a bit, but the amount of work that you need to spend, work, time, and so on, the amount of these the sources that you need is really, really high. just to increase a bit in the precision. So you need to be very flexible. Sampai level mana you think that the precision is acceptable and so on. Okay, itu berkenaan dengan precision. Dia berkaitan dengan confidence tadi. Right, now let's move to the objectivity. I have mentioned earlier in our first 3 slides, if I'm not mistaken, that I have mentioned about the objectivity. Objectivity is the conclusion that is drawn through the interpretation of the result of data analysis. Okay, and it must be derived from the actual data. If you remember, I told you that you need to get information that is objective, that is quantifiable, that you can then conduct statistical analysis. Okay, and then you can make decision based on the statistical analysis, result from the statistical analysis. And what is the most important thing is that it is not based on your own subjective or emotional values. Okay, it is not on your own subjective or emotional values. For example, if you ask your questions, if you ask questions to your colleagues, do you like Sir Nazim? Okay, so ada soalan-soalan yang 1 to 5, like you need to sufu nanti kan, sufu. Sufu tu satu contoh objectivity lah of the research. Nanti at the end of the semester, kita boleh tahu if students prefer my way of teaching or do not prefer my way of teaching. Ataupun ada yang benci ke kan, contohnya lah kan. But it cannot be based on the someone own subjectivity or emotional value. Kalau macam secara average yang baik, okay lah. Dia tak boleh based on saya rasa Sir Nazim ni tak bagus lah. Dia tak boleh seorang based on seorang je. Kalau seorang tu dia tak suka lah. Tak boleh macam tu Right, itu maksudnya objectivity. And why we need to make sure that our research is objective? Because we must make sure that it is objective to avoid much damage to the decision-making process, and it may be lead to the misleading conclusion. Kan? Sebenarnya orang ni bagus, tapi based on preference ataupun subjectivity of a few people who dislike these people, then you come up with a misleading conclusion. The same goes to the research lah. Any research finding, it must be objective to avoid misleading conclusion, because misleading conclusion will be then lead to the misleading ataupun wrong way of solving the problem. Then it is just a waste of time lah for you to conduct the research if the solution that you provide is not helpful. Generalizability, ada sikit dua lagi saya cuba cepat Generalizability is that the applicability of the research finding to other settings. Biasanya bila kita buat research, we randomly select a portion of the population to become our sample, and the sample must be randomly selected, and the sample size must be sufficient enough to generalize the population at certain level of confidence yang kita bincang tadi. If you, for example, you would like to study on the students' mean CGPA. Let's say me, I would like to, saya nak cari the mean CGPA of statistics student. But I choose students who are perform very well. Of course lah, semua akan dapat 3.8 and above, dia punya CGPA. Those who are not perform very well, I exclude them from my research. It is not generalizable to the, so my research here is not generalizable to the population because I select. Bila I select, it means that there is a bias in the sample selection. When there is a bias in the sample selection, you cannot generalize the result to the population. That is why you need to make sure that the sample selection is random. Kalau you buat sebelum ni research in STA650 ke apa, you just distribute your questionnaire via WhatsApp group, via email, and so on without having the sampling frame, then your result is not generalizable to the population yang sebenarnya. So that is why it is important for you to know that in FYP proposal, untuk selamat, make sure that if your supervisor asks you to collect data, primary data, make sure that you ask your supervisor, do you have the sampling frame, sir, or madam, or doctor? Kalau tak ada sampling frame, then you cannot you cannot randomly select the sample. Then your study is not generalizable to the population. Faham tak?
Boleh kan?
Boleh ke tak faham?
Tak berapa faham sangat, sir.
Okay, I think I need to explain dalam bahasa Melayu juga kan?
Boleh, sir?
Alright, dia macam ni. Dalam population kan, katalah dalam student statistik ada 1,000 orang. Ada 1,000 orang. Tapi katalah you nak collect data, you nak pilih sampel. You pun hantarlah melalui WhatsApp group. Hantarlah melalui email kepada semua orang. Tak kisahlah kan, siapa yang respon lah. Kalau macam tu sebenarnya result awak tadi tak boleh generalize keseluruhan student statistik. Sebab apa? Dah tak ada dah dia panggil randomness of the sample. Sample dia kena random. Maksudnya random ni macam mana? Random ni, katalah ada 1,000 orang student, you ada list name dia. Daripada A, katalah orang yang nama A, nama start dengan huruf A lah kan. AAHMAD, Ahmad, katalah AA. Sebab tu nama dia nombor 1. Last kali orang nama Z, Zainuddin katalah contohnya. Orang yang pertama nama Ahmad, orang yang ke-1,000 nama Zainuddin. Daripada sini, 1,000 orang ni, awak kena randomly select. Katalah awak guna Rausoft yang saya tunjuk tadi, keluarlah kena dapatkan 278 orang student. 278 orang student ni awak kena randomly select. Maksudnya awak kena guna random number generator. Random number generator boleh guna R ataupun boleh guna Google je. So awak pilihlah 274 kali. Ataupun awak boleh gunalah ada beberapa sampling teknik yang saya akan ajar nanti. Bila semua 274 orang itu dipilih secara rawak, bukan awak pilih sendiri. Dipilih secara rawak ni maksudnya awak tak tahu siapa yang akan terpilih. Barulah hasil kajian awak tu boleh awak boleh generalize, maksudnya apa, infer kepada keseluruhan 1,000 student statistik. Kalau tak boleh, kalau awak pilih, okey saya nak student nombor 1 ni, saya nak student nombor 25, saya suka dia, saya suka student nombor 30 juga. Kalau macam tu awak pilih, dia dah tak jadi rawak dah. Dia dah jadi saya pilih sebab saya suka student berkenaan. Bila buat macam tu, dia dah jadi ada bias. Bila ada bias, maksudnya result yang saya dapat tadi daripada student yang saya pilih tadi tak boleh infer the population, tak boleh mewakili population secara keseluruhannya. Faham tak? Macam tu.
Faham, sir?
Alright, Alhamdulillah. Harapnya fahamlah. Nanti kita akan discuss on the sampling technique. I hope with the sampling technique discussion, you will get a clearer picture on the generalizability. Later, I think we have a topic on the sampling technique. Now, let's move to the last one for today. That is on the parsimony. What is parsimony? Okay, parsimony is actually the simplicity in explaining the phenomena or problem that occur. Okay, so we as a researcher, kita nak get solution to solve the problem. Researcher ni, they usually prefer a complex research framework. Complex research framework, biasalah kalau you tengok research thesis, PhD ke apa kan, they use complex research framework. There are a lot of variables used, a lot of questions used. So dia dah jadi complex. Model tu yang simple boleh tapi jadi complex. Sebab nak bagi nampak PhD dia. For example lah. Jadi sometimes this complex framework ni with a lot of variables and a lot of items, dia hanya meningkatkan the precision of the research tu by maybe 5%, something like that saja, precision dia. So it is not worth it in research, actually it is not worth it to have a complex research, complex framework, lot of sample size just to increase 3% in the precision. Tapi biasanya kita dalam statistics, kita nak make sure every time, everything that we do, we want it to be better than previous research. Macam previous research, dia punya performance 90%. Kita nak upkan dia jadi 95%. But to increase from 90% to 95%, there are a lot of things that kita buat kan. We include daripada 2 variable, kita include jadi 10 variables and so on. Jadi bila macam tu, it is not recommended in research. In research, we need to make sure that we apply simplicity. Simplicity bukan simplicity produk Datuk Siti tu ya. Tapi kita apply simplicity. We make sure that we have manageable number of factors or variables. We make sure that we do not include everything under the sun. Jangan ambil semua benda yang nak kaji just to increase 5% in precision, something like that. So if you can have 90% precision with 2 variables only, just use this one. Just use this framework. Do not use a framework that consists of 10 variables and you will get only 95% precision. Guna yang lebih simple. Itulah dia the last thing that you need to have or you need to know about conducting research. Do you have any question? Do you have any question, class? No question?
No, sir.
Alright, dah lebih masa banyak dah kan? So if you don't have question, I think that's all for today. Thank you very much for your time and see you tomorrow. Inshallah we will complete chapter 2 by tomorrow.